Okay. Well, as I said, I know everyone's time is precious, so if people join, um, this today's session will be recorded. So if for some reason there's a part that you want to review, or if anyone logs in late, or you guys are talking to anybody as you're watching and want to send it, you can just let us know at PRSA-LA. My information is on our website under IPA, and I would be happy to send that forward. So let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural IPA programming session for 2022. I'm especially excited for today's program. I know we have a lot of PR practitioners who are either considering venturing out or have recently ventured out on their own for the first time. And I really hope today's session can provide you with some top level knowledge to help make that transition easier. I know there's a lot that we're going to be covering today. So again, today's session really is just kind of some top level advice from different areas. As a little bit of background before I introduce our panelists today, I'm Stacy Schwartz, and I head up PRSA-LA's Independent Practitioners Alliance, also known as IPA. I've been an independent practitioner for 12 years now, so I really like to say that I was the one that started the trend. I've also been heading up PRSA-LA's IPA for almost 3 years now. So I know, when making the decision to go independent, I just remember this onslaught of questions and concerns I had racing through my head. It's a big deal. Everything from just the sheer magnitude of the decision, questions like, what if I fail? What if I actually succeed? To operational questions of running my own business for the first time, like, how can I plan for a slow month and maintain my current lifestyle and budget? What will I do to make myself stand out from the competition? How do I decide what to charge clients? How do I build clients? So, being out on your own definitely affords a lot of benefits, but also a lot more responsibilities as well. And today we have 3 expert panelists in the fields of PR, personal branding, and finance to help provide some top level tips for going out on your own. We have PR veteran and crisis comm specialist, Tim Scerba, principal of Scerba Inc., who will talk us through some of the myths and realities of being independent and really offer his insights and perspective from being a tenured independent. We also have Danielle Marchese, a brand and marketing strategist and consultant, who's been helping brands carve out their own unique corner of their internet since 2017 by helping them curate one-of-a-kind, authentic, knockout brand audiences that their clients become obsessed with. And she'll really just give you some insight on personal branding. I know a lot of what we do for our clients, but when we do it for ourselves, it's very different. And then we also have Grecia Sarmiento, City National Bank Relationship Manager, and she's going to provide some top-level financial advice and steps to starting your own business. We'll have some time for questions at the end, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we will definitely address them at the end. So with no more ado, I'm now going to turn our discussion over to Tim, and he's going to give you a little more in-depth background into his expertise and kick us off and take us through some of the, again, myths and truths about going on your own, as well as some helpful advice. So Tim, over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Stacy, and thanks to PRSA for inviting me here this morning. I remember when I first went out on my own 8 years ago, I actually went to an IP lunch in downtown LA. And it was great because I knew a lot of the people who were there, but I also had this feeling of like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm not alone. Because I think one of the things that happens when you go off on your own, especially if you're working in an agency, you all of a sudden are not, you look up from your desk and you turn and there's no one there but you or your dog or your cat. So having this IP group to be able to get together with and share ideas and support has been very, very valuable for me. I think what I'll do is start a little bit about me. I have about 30 years of experience working in communications, primarily corporate, strategic, reputation management, and crisis. Those 30 years have been in an agency. 10 years before that, I was in-house. And at the time I was with agencies, I worked in the United States, I worked in Central America, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Latin America. So it has been an amazing experience. About 8 years ago, I reached that point and I said, okay, it's time to go out on my own. So I got all excited, like, okay, I'm going to set up my own shop and do this. And my friends were saying, so what are you doing? Are you setting up an agency? How are you doing this? And I said, oh, we're going to see. And these are some of the, I had 5 things that I think are important that I learned along the way that really helped me, and sort of the pitfalls and the not. I think the first thing I think that I've noticed with me and with friends of mine who've done this is there is a psychological difference between making the decision on your own to go out and having the decision made for you. How's that for being for PR speak? That's not bad, huh? What happened, I think, what I learned with that is that the first thing that we all get when whether we make the decision ourselves or whether it's being made for us, is there's an amazing identity crisis that tends to happen shortly thereafter of like, who am I? Because for many, many years, we were our business card. So, I mean, I would say, hi, I'm Team Scerba and I am so-and-so with Edelman, or I'm with Hill & Knowlton or Rogers & Cowan, or, any number of agencies. And that was sort of like, I became my business card. When that went away, I looked in the mirror and it was just me. I had this identity thing of like, well, okay, but now really, who am I? My solution was to go out and I incorporate it. And that then gave me a company, and I had business cards made, and that it really gave me back that sort of corporate identity that I had missed when I had left the agency world. That doesn't work for everybody. It just, for me, it really helped me, incorporating and getting, business cards and everything else, because it helped me feel what I was doing was more real and more tangible. The second thing that I really had to learn was, what is my niche? If you're coming from the agency side, we're trained over the course of years to become very, very good in several things, but there's also a certain baseline of generalists that most of us have. That, combined with the training we also have in our personality types, is we're taught not to say no. So if a client calls and says, can you help me with internal comms? Sure, I can. Can you help with the crisis? Love to. Can you help me launch a new product? Can't wait. When you're on your own, you can't do that because you're on your own and it's you. It's like I mentioned, looking up and looking around for a team, and I saw my dog. So, and the dog was usually taking a nap. So he was not a whole lot of help. So what I really had to do, and what I would recommend you do too, if you're starting with this, is really take a hard look at yourself and look at, what am I really good at? What do I really enjoy doing? And hopefully those two will overlap. And then learn, which is very, very difficult to do, is to learn how to say, I'm really sorry, that's not in my wheelhouse, but I can recommend someone who can help you with that. The first time I did that, it was the weirdest feeling in the world, because I'm saying, oh, I'm turning down money. I'm leaving money on the table. I'm turning down business, and I'm admitting that I don't do something, none of which really fit with my personality after working in agencies for so long. But I assure you, if you can figure out your niche and really focus on that and market yourself that way, it's very, 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 very helpful. The other two things that I had were tracking. I got really caught up in this whole idea of my own company and Tim Scerba Inc. and blah, 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 blah. So I immediately went to, who does it? I went to Quicken and I downloaded the small business trackers and all these other things. And I spent hours creating budget codes. And finally it hit me, I'm not at Edelman anymore. I'm not managing a region. I'm not managing all these clients. I don't need to have subcodes and client codes. So what I did, I called Quicken, I gave it back. I don't want this, take it back. And I went online and I found a really, really cool app. I don't have my cell phone in front of me, but I think it's called Business Expense App. I'm more than happy to share it with you all. But it's an app that it goes on my iPhone. I can track clients, I track hours, I track expenses, what I did, and everything else, as detailed as you want. And the best part about it is, at the end of the month, all I do is hit email. It emails the report to me in an Excel form, which then becomes my time and activity report for the client. And then all I have to do is create the invoice for it. For the longest time, the app was actually free. And then finally they charge, I think it's like $10 now or something, but it's definitely forever, for life. So it's definitely worth it. And then the last thing that I learned And as Stacy was saying, when you start, you have that thing of, am I going to make it? Is this really going to work? How am I going to do this? I remember starting on my own. My biggest fear was, I'm going to end up, living under a bridge with my dog, eating his food. And I can tell you that almost eight years later, I'm not living under a bridge. I'm not eating my dog's food, and everything is completely fine. However, what Stacy mentioned, there is a sort of a shock of going from knowing that on the 15th and the 30th of the month, this money is going to miraculously appear and automatically appear in your checking account. And when you're on your own, it doesn't. So what I would suggest you do, and this is if you're on your own, or if you're making a decision or it's being made for you, is try to create a buffer so that you don't freak out and panic every month. In the same way that we're always taught you can't manage a business on a week-to-week basis, what we're really doing when we're on our own is we're also on a business. And if we're focusing on trying to manage it week to week in terms of the revenue streams and everything else, that's distracting from the business itself. So I would suggest, if at all possible, to have a few months of revenue stashed away on the side, so that if a client is a few weeks late in paying a bill, or even a month late in paying a bill, your cash flow isn't impacted and you're able to do that. So those are the 5 things that I did. What I can say, however, is that it has been and continues to be an amazing journey. I have had great experiences working on my own. It took me to live in Peru for a few years before the pandemic. I've got to work with some really interesting clients outside of who normally would not go to a large agency. And you get that psychological benefit of really knowing that you're working one-on-one and you really are truly making a difference for the client versus being a cog in a larger wheel. So again, thank you very much, Stacy and PRSA. And I will now turn it over to you guys.
Well, Tim, I actually wanted to touch on a couple of points that you made. I thought that they were great. To kind of work backwards, I think starting, with the budgeting and the money, I think that's such an important aspect. Like you said, when you're working for somebody else, every 2 weeks you get that paycheck. And when you're on your own, I wanted to ask you kind of what your average is, but often for me, I'm like 60 days before I get some money. And then, I hate to say it, but you will run into those clients that won't pay you. And then you kind of have to follow up. So you really have to prepare. I'm not saying that's the norm. However, that's something that you have to, be aware of. And I think, again, not to get too into the details, but that's something that we can, you want to consider that you'll have in your contract, how many days out is your budget. So Tim, I was going to ask you, just typically what's your, pay scale for the clients in time? Okay. Is it 30, 60? My
invoices, when they go out, on the bottom, they say net 15.
Yeah.
That's a net 15 days.
Yep.
And there are some clients who have stayed within net 15 days. There was another client where it was almost 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, they paid 13 invoices at once. It was like, whatever. But since I had the client base that was doing the net 15, net 30, and the other client, when I realized there were going to be problems with them, it wasn't an issue.
Right. That's wonderful.
So it balanced out.
100%. And I think that, to your point, balance is what you really need to do. And I think everyone's situation, I know this is something we talked about too, that we may touch on later, but, given where you are in life too, where I am now with a family and a mortgage is very different than I was in my 20s, and not having to worry about all those expenses as much. So I think Grecia will touch on that later, but I love that point. And then I also just wanted to follow up quickly before we turn it over to Danielle about finding your niche. That is something that's so important. And myself, like Tim, I just kind of thought the same thing, like, well, I'm out on my own. I have all this experience. Why wouldn't somebody just want to hire me for everything? And it takes a while. To be very honest, I think it took me a good year to 2 years before I really did figure out what that niche was. That doesn't mean I didn't have clients. It doesn't mean I wasn't making money and working. It just meant before I kind of found that flow, it took some time. So don't expect, if you're going out on your own, to just, figure it out right away, and be open to kind of where things take you as well, because where you thought might be your niche might not actually be what ends up on your plate. So thank you so much, Tim. And like I said, if you have questions, just thank you. Just go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll address it afterwards. I know Tim, people are interested in getting what you use for tracking. So if you happen to find that information and put it in the chat, that would be great. So next we have Danielle Marchese from On Brand, and she's going to provide us with some insight on social media platforms and then personal branding. Like I said, I know a lot of us do it for our clients, but when we do it for ourselves, it's a little bit different. So Danielle, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just, you know, branding, I like to have visual aids. So as Stacy was saying, yes, I do personal branding and marketing for a lot of different people. And I love that anybody here is interested in going out on their own or has taken that leap. I know it can be terrifying, but I congratulate you for even thinking about it. So congratulate yourself for being here. A little bit about me. I like to say that coffee, TV, travel, family are my things, and branding is the hobby that I turned into a career. I really started my business about 5 years ago doing just website design and a little bit of brand design, and very quickly fell in love with the brand side of it and the stories that come along with it, and how we can infuse our personalities and a little bit more of not all business all the time. As entrepreneurs and as business owners, we do have that capability. And I became kind of obsessed with that idea and kind of just took that and completely ran with it. So what we do inside my business is what I call the brand audits. I'll get into that a little bit later of how important I think those are, but that's really just looking at a holistic view or an overview of what you're doing inside your brand and business now, and what suggestions or adjustments I see that you can take to get you closer to your goals sooner rather than later. And talk a lot about personal branding because it is something completely new to people that we're not used to infusing our personalities into business at all. So I do talk a lot about that. And we do a lot of storytelling marketing, which I will definitely touch on what that even is. And we do a lot of consulting too. People just want to get our opinions on something, or they need help crafting a storytelling marketing for a new course or a new program they're putting out. So we do a lot of that. So what is branding and marketing? I think everyone here may have a little bit of knowledge, and you might hear this over and over from different brand specialists. So every brand specialist has their specific way of describing branding. My way is, it is the DNA of your business. You can't have a business or you can't have marketing without that foundation of your branding. It's the physical features like your colors, your fonts, your logos, all the pretty stuff combined with that business personality. And what I mean by that is you are the thing behind your business that's going to set your business apart from others in your field. So everybody here does something very, very similar, but the you behind it and how you conduct your business and how you interact with your clients and how the entire process from start to end is that thing that sets you apart from others in your field. And once you do have that foundation of that brand established, it makes it much easier to build this recognizable brand that people love, become obsessed with, and it's that you can carry that through your marketing as well. So I just want to touch on some trends that are happening in social media today. I noticed after I did this presentation that I completely left out Twitter. I don't know if it's what's going on with Twitter right now, people just kind of not knowing what's going to happen with Elon buying it. I am very interested to see how that's going to play out. But Twitter, I mean, just as a background to Twitter, is famously used for a lot of journalists used it at first. Now it's very much used for politics a little bit, journalists and just that quick one-liners, links a lot of times to other social platforms or articles or videos and whatnot, but it's still here, still kicking, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks and months to come. So I should have put Facebook and LinkedIn icons next to each other. For businesses, they really function a lot of the same. You would definitely want to make sure, if you are choosing to go out and you do have a dedicated business name, we want to build a business page on both Facebook and LinkedIn. And I say, I'm going to present all of these, and then I'm going to tell you about how you can pick those ones specific for your clients. If your clients are not on TikTok, there's no reason to be there, but I want to give you all of the information so you can kind of make the most logical decision that would benefit you most. So Facebook pages and LinkedIn pages allow you to run ads if you want to. They allow you to create communities that are just just specifically niche to you. You are the leader, you are the expert in that particular page. You are the one that they look to for advice, or if you're constantly posting articles or having people guest inside your pages of articles and blog posts, the pages create that kind of niche community for you to be able to do that, and allows you to collect reviews on Facebook pages, and on LinkedIn it does allow you to just kind of add that further legitimate piece to your business of having that page inside LinkedIn. There's a lot of groups in both Facebook and LinkedIn. I would assume that this industry is much more in LinkedIn pages and LinkedIn in general than they are in Facebook, but they really are one and the same. So if you wanted to kind of explore the Facebook area a little bit more, you wouldn't be too shocked of the functionality of it. Instagram, they're changing all the time, their algorithm, but as we know, that's mainly photos. You can't really share a direct link in captions like you can in LinkedIn or a Facebook, but it's really just kind of like the pretty way to share your expertise, share your articles, or share just kind of that personal side, which we will touch on more. And TikTok, as we know, is either your favorite thing or your least favorite thing. But what I like to say about TikTok and Pinterest, they actually function as search engine optimization. So there's not necessarily just pictures or just articles. TikTok in particular, you could type in the search bar, how to cook broccoli, and you could learn it. You could type into Pinterest, how to renovate my kitchen on a budget, and you could find that. So you could find specific things in both of these platforms, and they also follow their own rules of the algorithm and of hashtags. So it's almost like less to worry about trying to fit in the mold and fit the rules and feed the algorithm what it wants to be feed for TikTok and Pinterest. TikTok, why I always like to teach this is because it has a very powerful place for corporate. One of my clients right now is on a speaking circuit talking about this thing in particular, and we got a lot of pushback at first, people saying, I do not want to go on there, and that's fine. But I just, again, like to present what it is, what it really can be used for. It can be used for those trends and the dancing and the nonsense. But if you get up there and you're teaching very basic skills about what you do, that's a way to share value. So the same thing, if you were to post a blog post inside LinkedIn articles, if you wanted to, you could sit and make 16 videos out of one article and feed the TikTok algorithm and drive traffic to where you actually want your audience to be, which maybe be on LinkedIn, on your website, and whatnot. So that's kind of how TikTok works. And Pinterest, again, like that's crazy search engine. So you could type in, for example, we started posting on Pinterest just fairly recently, and I took a long break prior. And at the time when I started 2 weeks ago, again, just posting things I was already posting on other platforms, nothing new. I didn't create anything new. It was videos that I had done for Instagram. It was articles breaking up in small photos. I went from 262 monthly views to 2,000, over 2,000 in less than a week. Now, that doesn't mean that people are necessarily clicking, but it does mean I'm getting in front of a lot more people on a lot faster. So let's make it personal. So people tend to shy away from being personal inside their business because that's definitely not how it always was. So I want to just present a small example and just kind of go with me on the story here. Say you are a coffee lover like myself, and there's a billion and one Starbucks all around me. I don't know about you guys. And I go into Starbucks and have a pretty bad experience. The barista is just kind of like not feeling it, maybe just having a bad day, but messes up my order, and I could look past it. Okay, whatever. The next day I go to a different one, and she's complimenting my shirt, and she's telling me about a book she read, and we're connecting, and it's a personal experience. And she killed my coffee order, like nailed it on the tee. Even if that coffee shop is a little bit further away, chances are I'm going to go out of my way to go over to that shop because of that personal experience, because she, number one, got my order right. And number two, it was just a little bit of a personal connection. Believe it or not, I know a lot of us are heads down when we're out and we're at our Starbucks and we want to get and go, but believe it or not, today, especially after the pandemic, people are really craving that genuine human connection. So if we can have that personal touch inside our business, and this doesn't mean we're airing our dirty laundry, this doesn't mean we're sharing everything, doesn't mean you need to share your avocado toast every morning. It just means if we can share a little bit more about ourselves other than what we do, and outweigh that business and personality and really make that balance, we're going to connect with our audience way more. We're going to resonate with them way more. And it's going to build what we'll talk about a little bit later, a like, trust, and know factor. And that really just means that they may choose us to work with us over somebody else because of who we are and because of what they can see, and because they can see what it might be like to work with somebody like us. And that can be as simple as connecting over a TV show that you like. So how do I start this?
I was going to jump in really quick, Danielle.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love that point. And I just wanted to say too, when I think one of the benefits of going out on your own, and Tim kind of touched on this a little bit, is that connection with your clients and finding that personal connection, because now you can really choose who you work with and not. And I think you're so nail on the head, and that clients are going to gravitate towards you when you have that important personal connection and they can understand what that is, and you as well. And I think, again, a benefit of being out on your own is being able to choose those clients who you would like to work with. And so
Exactly. And the more we can infuse into our social media, or our marketing, our email marketing, wherever we are, the more they're going to come to us rather than we feel like we're chasing them. So how do we start with this? If we're totally new to this, how do we start? And the thing I always like to say is pick 3 things. So this is the 3 things. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking, but if you can pick 3 things that you could talk to a complete stranger about, then just start sharing it. So let's take LinkedIn, for example. You could, like, it could be on LinkedIn, you can do both things. You could share an article, or you can share a photo, or you can share, a story or a quick caption, or really anything, which is why I like LinkedIn so much. It's very versatile. So you could share a photo of your coffee, but actually be sharing in your caption something about, hey, I have this new offer, or I'm giving away free calls, or something not related to the picture. You have that capability to do that. But by sharing the photo of the coffee, someone might relate to that on a very personal level of, oh, that reminds me, I need to go get my latte today, or I need to make my coffee. Let me see what kind of coffee she's liking. You have no idea how many times sharing a picture of my coffee on Instagram has gotten me a direct message of, hey, what Nespresso do you have? And that has led to a genuine connection, a genuine conversation, not about business, but those are the types of people who, when I am sharing about a new offer, or I'm sharing about a new freebie that I want to put out, those are the people who are signing up first, because we have connected on something completely different first. So what this does by sharing a little of these 3 things is it relates and resonates with your audience. You appear to them as a peer rather than always someone trying to sell to them. And it builds that like, trust, and know factor. And it helps shape the image of what it could be like to work with you during their transformation. So to give you an example, these are my 3 things, which have turned into 4. But I have probably mentioned at least 16 times my love for coffee, love for a good latte, when I was traveling a lot more than I am now. The first thing I'd always do is research the top coffee shops in the area and try to hit at least 2 while I was there. And I was always sharing that. I was saying, or I was asking my audience, hey, I'm going to be in Chicago this weekend. Where's the best place to grab a latte and bang out an hour of work? The next thing I'm always talking about is TV. Fun fact, wanted to go into the TV industry, wanted to be a talk show host, wanted to do all these things, and it didn't turn out that way. But how can I use that love, that slight obsession inside my business? Well, everyone's watching TV, everyone's watching something. So why not talk about those things? And if it's a super dramatic show, I want to know what people's opinions are. I want to know what people's opinions are on the Silly Housewives, to the Modern Family, to the most dramatic TV show of, I can't even think of one right now. Like, I'm rewatching Desperate Housewives, which I should not be doing. So that's always something else that's just an easy thing for people to talk about and relate to about. The third thing is I am starting the process of buying a home. Probably won't happen for another year or so. So, the internet's always listening to us, and I'm constantly getting these beautifully aesthetic pictures popping up all over my social media of these beautiful homes. And I just love kind of getting the ideas. So I just started sharing it on my social media, and I'm sharing that. That's part of my journey in 2022 into 2023 of buying a home as an entrepreneur. And that's confusing. And it's, a little bit different than buying a home with a 2 two-income household who have regular incomes. So I'm sharing a little bit about that, and that is extremely relatable. And if you go to my Instagram, to bring me to my last photo, this is a photo of me and my mother. I am constantly sharing just what the antics we get into. And that alone has started so many conversations, but more to the fact of when I told her I was going to start a business, she was not happy. And we have talked about that. She's been on my podcast. And sharing that personal story has really helped my particular audience and my particular niche just kind of be okay with people not being okay with them going out on their own or having that worry for them. And that's been a very good conversation for people to relate to. Now, do these things directly relate into my services? Not always, but again, it really just helps me extend that personal touch to my audience and allows them to feel safe opening up that conversation with me if they feel they can do that with me. And also, again, just gives me a human side to my offerings. So the other point that I want to talk about is you can use all of those three things and still be sharing about your value and what you offer. So storytelling marketing is all over. You can read lots of books on it. And this is my latest obsession inside the branding world. I read a book about it and my business completely changed about a year ago. And really what this means is it's just a different way to present your offerings, to present your services, to present what it is that you do best. Every stories are everywhere, from TV to movies to the latest gossip. If we were working in an office still, our coworkers had, side drama going on. We wanted in, right? We wanted to know what was going on. We wanted to know everything. Stories have a way of presenting this kind of problem and engaging us through drama, through ups and downs, and then offering some sort of solution. So some sort of wrap up, some sort of somebody wins, the hero gets the girl, whatever it is. So I started thinking about why can't we introduce the same principles into our marketing? So why can't we have the beginning and middle and end to our marketing efforts? And this could be done on any platform you choose, on any type of, if you're doing email marketing, blogging, only on LinkedIn, or if you're on stories on Instagram, these same methods can be used in a day, in one post, or throughout several months. So if you're presenting a new service, you want to present it as the beginning of a story, present it as a problem, present it as, don't you hate when XYZ, or have you ever experienced XYZ? And just start a conversation about it. Just start talking about it and seeing where people are at with it. You can always infuse it in your three things. Like you can be talking on stories if you wanted to go the story route on Instagram stories. I hate that LinkedIn took them away. But you can be having coffee in the morning with your mom. I have done this several times. Like, hey mom, what do you think of the latest branding trends? She's like, what? But just that silly little interaction has completely broken the ice. And now people are feeling more comfortable to start saying that their opinions about it. The next, that middle part, is relating to the problem. Most of the time we have experienced at one point or another what our clients are going through, or we have helped clients through what we are best at helping our clients with. So we want to relate to that problem. And that just really extends the human side of it, of if we can say that we have been through that too, or we have personal experience, or we have a lot of experience with it, they're going to feel safe with us, especially hiring us. And the end is offering that solution. So what is it that you do? Talk about it, brag about it, share lots of experience, share those client reviews, share anything that you feel can help shape what it is that your particular client, your particular audience needs to know to be able to say, yes, I want to work with them. So that's kind of the full circle of this story. And again, you could do this in one post, or you can elongate this whole process for several posts or several emails, whatever marketing avenues you choose. So where do you start with all of this? So what I like to say for whether you're starting a new podcast, you're starting on a new platform, you're getting on LinkedIn pages, or you're launching a whole business, or you're launching a new service, take a look at where you currently are. Take a look at what your brand is currently saying. Observe your history, observe where you have been as a brand. Maybe you're just starting, so observe that you have quit your job, and that's part of your story. That's part of your brand history. The next thing is observe kind of where you want to be, where it stands, and where you want to be. Based on where you want to be, if your brand, if your business, if your marketing strategies are not representing this forward movement that you want to be making, that's your sign to go ahead and make the adjustments. And that can be as small as making a small tweak to the colors you're using on your website, or that could be big as changing the backend systems that you use. But that is your kind of opportunity to go ahead and do that. And you're deciding, then you want to decide who it is you want to work with and who it is you don't want to work with. As Tim was saying, maybe we don't want to keep on that client who just kind of is not great at paying. Maybe we do, but we get to decide who we want to work with. So if at any point you need to adjust that and adjust your copy and how you're presenting that, you have that ability to do that. And then of course you want to decide where you want to connect with them. Maybe you just want to be on LinkedIn, and that's fine. You're going to be great on it. You're going to have only one thing to worry about, and just make that your wheelhouse, and don't worry about keeping up with trends on any other social media. If you want to explore other areas, then do that, and don't be too hard on yourself in the beginning when you don't get much traction, or sometimes you do. But just decide and go with it, and don't look back. And then your last part is figure out what story you want to write. So take all of this, observing your brand history through who you want to work with, and develop that beginning, middle, and end of a marketing story. And that's it. And whatever you choose, just make sure. I am very big into not following trends. I appreciate the trends. I see what they are for, but just make sure that they're on brand, as I say, to you and who you want to be. And don't feel that you need to be on a platform just because everyone else is doing it. And that's it. Thanks for this opportunity, guys. I know it was a lot spitfiring at you. I always like to say my brand geek falls out when I do these presentations. But thanks for having me.
Danielle, that was so wonderful. Thank you. I have a quick follow-up question. I loved all the explanations. I especially love the insight into Pinterest and TikTok, because, you know, those aren't really platforms that I know I would come first of mind to myself when I'm, you know, looking to do my own social media or reach professionals. I thought that was great. How often do you, you know, in your personal branding, we know that, you know, we often will post multiple times for clients, but when you're doing it for yourself, how much is too much? How much, you know, what's that like balance between, I don't want to like drive away my potential clients and interests versus, you know, them getting sick of me versus them knowing I'm still here?
Yeah, I think everyone will eventually find their wheelhouse of that. Everyone will find what is too much for them and what's too little. So just starting once a day, if you can hit once a day, people are getting used to seeing you. People are getting used to seeing what you're talking about. Maybe it's something completely different than what you've been talking about on your social media platforms before, now that you're going out. So stick to once a day for now. And in the balance of what's business and what's, you know, personal, even just keep it even for now. So do like a 3 on, 3 off, 3 on, 3 off of business, and just kind of keep that flow going for a little bit. You can alternate the days, but that's kind of what I would stick to. And when I say every day, I usually don't post, or I'm not on social media at all on Sundays. So stick to kind of that 6-day schedule, and 3 personal and 3 business, and start with there. And you can always adjust. You could see that people are really into the business rather than the personal stuff, and maybe post a little bit more business infused with personal, or people are really attracted to the personal stuff and do the opposite.
Are there any like tools that you have for people that are a little bit nervous of like creating their own content or don't quite know where to get started?
In terms of like platforms to use design wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the platform that might be a little more user friendly or a little more self-explanatory, or again, you know, even I don't like a tutorial or anything about creating interesting content.
Sure. So design wise, Canva is a completely free program. It's very, very similar to like a Photoshop. If people have heard of Photoshop, they have amazing templates too. So I could type in about me, and 70 templates will come up for all different types of platforms of about me posts, or like a quiz post, or a anything that you wanted to share about on a personal side. Canva probably has a template for it.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's really helpful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We are now going to hear from Grecia Sarmiento from City National Bank, and she's going to share some kind of top level financial advice and things to know when starting your own small business.
Hello, everyone. My presentation is not as exciting as Danielle's, but I'll do my best.
Important just the same.
I love coffee too, Danielle, so you hit that right on point. yeah, social media is definitely the new way for everything. So that was super, super interesting for me. But let me try to share my screen so then we can go over. Okay. Can everyone see that? Perfect. Okay, so the purpose of my presentation is more just to give you guys some tools on how to start or where to start for your business, right? I know a lot of you guys are independent contractors or you're just getting started. So these are just some of the tools that we recommend for you guys to start with. So some of the business tools for us that we would be able to advise on, I would say start with your business plan. And that can tie back to a lot of the things that Tim talked about and even Danielle. You just want to have a clear vision of where you're going, what your plan is, and what's the direction you want to take with your business. But also on the business side, have a clear vision that if you ever had to present it to someone, you know exactly what your business entails of, right? You want to know how you're going to fund your business. I mean, most of you getting started, it's either going to come from either personal money. Are you going to have to find a loan? Are you going to use it from existing savings? So just knowing how you're going to fund your business. You're going to create a business budget. That's very important. That's something that Stacy really wanted to touch on because it's probably one of the most important things when starting a business, right? Knowing exactly how you're going to budget for it. You're going to either pick a business location, or most of you working from home or starting from obviously a virtual place. That might not entail, but if for some reason you want to expand at some time, you know that that's an option as well. Choosing a business structure, a business name, you have to register your business and obviously get a tax ID. So these are just some of the top topics that we'll be discussing today. So business plans for your business, where to get started, right? So this is what I was telling you guys. A good business plan guides you through each stage of starting and managing your business. You'll use your business plan as a roadmap for how to structure, run, and grow your new business. It's a way to think through the key elements of your business. Business plans can help you get funding or bring on new business partners. Investors want to feel confident that you'll see a return on your investment. Your business plan is the tool you'll use to convince people that working with you or investing in your company is a smart choice. So most of you being obviously independent, that might not entail to you, but just having the option to know that what direction you want to take your business regardless, it's a good way to start. Credit is super important when starting a business because you are in the beginning stages. You're obviously not going to have established business credit yet. So having good personal credit is very, very important. That's what's going to lead the way to any potential loans you're going to need. If you're going to need a credit card in case of anything. So until you establish that business credit, we want to make sure that we're checking credit reports. If you need to dispute something, you're on top of that. There's many resources for that. You can actually print a free annual credit report every year through annualcredit.com. So I can actually add that on the chat, but you're entitled to a free annual credit report. So that should be able to show you if you have anything that you need to work on or dispute, just to make sure that everything is accurate. So whenever the time comes and you actually want to apply for something, everything makes sense to you and you're ready to go. As time goes by, you start establishing, then you'll start building your business credit, and then you can apply for business loans or whatever else comes your way that will help. Okay, so creating a business budget. This is where you really have to know what exactly is it that you're going to focus on. So once you have, you know, your niche or your direction of what exactly you think your business is going to consist of, that will help you actually start. You can start by researching that specific industry that you're going to focus on, right? What are some of the avenues or revenues that they make every year? It gives you a starting point, at least to know what are you working with. So to analyze your cost, you want to start by researching the operating costs involved in your business, factor in fixed, variable, one-time and unexpected cost. If your business is new, then you must include startup costs as well. Planning the budget this way will help you make informed decisions and tackle any unwanted surprises. So just knowing where you're going to start and what is it going to entail of, at least will help you have a starting point on the different things that you should focus on to start saving for. You want to estimate your revenue. Many businesses have failed in the past by overestimating revenue and borrowing more cash to meet operational needs. This defeats the very purpose of creating a budget. To keep things realistic, it's a good idea to analyze previous recorded revenues. Business must track revenues periodically on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. So obviously, when you're getting started, you're not going to have these exact numbers for your own business, but you can see other businesses track record in your same industry just to kind of see, if you have any similarities or similar things that you think you're going to spend on. So you can at least have a starting point on what to focus on or where to start, right? You want to know your gross profit margin. So this is, like Tim mentioned, he already kind of has a set time, right? So he does 15 days or you do 30 days or 60 days. So you want to be prepared to know, like, not every client is going to pay you on time. You have to set those standards up front, right? So your gross profit margin is actually the cash left with after your business has dealt with all the expenses for the year. So it gives you the insight into financial health of your business. The best way to do this would be to list out the cost of goods sold, in your case of services, and deduct them from the overall sales revenue. So this will give you exactly what is the margin that you have of what you're actually spending versus what's coming in at the end of the year. This is probably something that you'll have a better idea after a full year of, establishing your business. Okay, project cash flow. So this is where I was going as far as your customer payments and vendor payments. You need to balance these two components to keep the cash flowing in your organization. Best practice is to ensure timely customer payments. It's important to have flexible payment terms through common payment channels. You can encourage payment by giving customers a grace period and creating strict business policies for paying late. Beyond this, you must have saved money allocated in your budget for bad debt in case the customer never pays. So this is very, very important. Just have expectations, set expectations with your clients. I mean, nowadays there's so many different payment options. I mean, a lot of people use Venmo, Zelle. There's even with your, we're obviously a financial institution, so your own bank provides different solutions where you can actually track that better and have a better flow of how you're receiving your payments versus what's going out. You can track it better. So I think it's great that Tim gave that example. Like he puts 15 days. At least it sets a starting point for your client to know, okay, I can pay it in 15 days. It's not, I'll just pay it whenever. 15 days or 30 days is a great starting point to at least give them some time, but it's not letting them know you can take 3 months to pay me, Setting expectations it's probably really, really key to your business. And then also setting spending goals, making a budget for everything. You want to make sure if you're going to use any type of, in your case, probably softwares, or I know Canva is free, but if you want to update, to get more stuff available to you, you might have to spend a little more money. So you just want to set that specific budget for everything in your business that you're going to allocate to. Right now, you might not have staff, but eventually you might want to start, hiring people. So just knowing what your direction is and what you're working towards can actually also help you with your spending goals as well, right? So making a budget is more than just adding costs and subtracting them from your earnings. How wisely you spend your money determines how well your business will fare. Goals provide a system to check if your money is being spent on the right areas to avoid unwanted expenses. Gauge and invest in those expenses that would benefit your business in the long run. Okay, so finding the right bank that's going to work with you. Obviously, I'm at City National Bank and I would love to help every single one of you in any way possible. But that goes with you want to make sure that they're helping you get the right system that's going to work for you. That's going to make things easy for your clients. You don't want to work with the bank that, is not going to give you the flexibility of how your payments come in, how you can see your stuff online. All that is very, very important. building that relationship. For example, Danielle, she's, soon going to buy her home. If I'm her banker, not only can I help her with her business stuff, but I'm also a resource when it comes to her mortgage or, expanding her business, whatever the case is, just building that relationship. I mean, you guys are PR, you know how important it is to build those relationships and have that network system, right? So once you have established relationship with the bank, there's different things that they can do also to protect you against fraud. They have e-deposits. If you're going to take checks, you can deposit them through your phone, or if you're going to pay bills online. So this is just kind of an example of a bundle of what you guys can benefit from just banking with us, or you can obviously do your own research and see what works best for you guys. And then funding your business. So this is just, this is pretty simple. It's either, you set aside already a certain amount of money that you have, that you feel comfortable investing into your business to starting, or you're gonna, in some cases you have to take a personal loan to be able to start this. Some people even, tap into their 401ks. At the end of the day, it's an investment for yourself and it's worth it. If you feel that it's worth it for you and you have everything in place, then you can pretty much fund it any way that you find that's going to suit you best. We also have Sba Loans. Well, the government does. So that's a great website. If you guys want to check this out, it gives so many resources on how to start a small business and what type of grants or loans are offered to startup businesses. So I would definitely take a look at that. And then some of your 5 pillars, the most important pillars, I feel like you have to be able to have the right people on your side. So having good connections is super important. As far as, for tax advising, you want to make sure you have a CPA. You don't want to go on a website and just, I can't even think of an example right now, but I know there's tons of websites that help you create stuff online for your legal, entities and stuff like that. I would suggest you talk to a professional. Even if it's an attorney, just for a one-time appointment to make sure you're getting the right legal advice before you proceed any other direction. Like I said, a CPA to make sure your taxes everything's on point, that your accounting is good, however you're going to run your bookkeeping. An insurance agent, that kind of goes more if you're going to actually have a location or grow it, but knowing somebody is also very important. And they put a doctor, I guess, in case you need to talk to a therapist at times. I don't know, being a business owner can get a little crazy. But anyways, I really feel like finding the right professional and being in groups like this, this is a great resource because you can actually get the right information and referrals to guide you in the right direction to meet the right people, right? And that's pretty much it on my end. I know the other stuff took a little longer, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but if you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Grecia, so much. And I did want to do one quick follow-up. And I know that you're not a CPA, but just when you're talking about budgeting for your business and just making a budget, do you have an idea of like a percentage about how much of your paycheck you should be putting aside on your own? Because I think something that a lot of people don't realize or they don't think about is obviously now taxes aren't taken out automatically. So, you have to do that for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have a really big shock when it comes to April or you're paying your quarterly taxes. Do you have just like an estimate about how much you should be putting aside?
I think it depends on how your budget is, but I would recommend minimum of like 20 to 30% if it was possible. I know like sometimes that's not and now with inflation and stuff, I know things are getting a little more difficult, but if you could, I would treat it like if it was a separate savings account and try to do at least minimum of 20 to 30% if that's feasible.
No, that's great. Thank you. And I just know, personally, like you said, I do have a separate business account, obviously, and that's what I do. All my paychecks go in there and then I leave money in there for taxes. It works for me. It's easier that way.
Yeah. And if you set it up ahead of time, like I said, once you like, this is what you're going to do. This is how much money you have to start with. This is how much money bringing in. You might have one client that you already been working with even while working your job. I know a lot of people or your type of industry can always have, some side work. If you're getting a certain amount of money already from that, maybe start with that, taking from one client at a time, setting it aside from the beginning. So you're already used to it. If you don't see the money and it's just going straight to an account, it's much easier than like seeing a big lump already and then you having to separate it, right? So all those things I think are important to start off from the beginning with your budget.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know we've had some questions come in, so we have a couple minutes. So I'm just going to read through some of the questions in the chat. And then, like I said, if you have more, please feel free to send them in. We'll answer as many as we can. So the first one I see, this will probably be, I'll give some feedback and maybe Tim if you want to, but if you have a new client, do you ever invoice a retainer at the start knowing you won't get paid for a month? So I know depending on the client I have and the relationship and what I know about them, I will do both, but there has been times when in the initial agreement, I will ask for half of the first month's retainer. Now, Tim, I was just wondering what's your perspective on that? Oh, you're on mute still. Oh, Tim, you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
I have not done that, but that is primarily because I have yet to work with a client that I didn't know beforehand or have a relationship with beforehand. I'm sure that if someone came to me cold and I did a proposal and I had no idea who they were, I would probably ask for that up front. But I've been very lucky that I haven't had to do that so far.
Yeah, and I've done both. The other thing that I have done, especially just because, I am independent, it's just me. If you have any expenses for the client going into it, and I know, whether it's travel or marketing materials that you're helping them print out, I absolutely either ask them to pay on their credit card or I 100% ask for that up front, because at the end of the day, I do not want to get left holding the bag for like a $5,000, marketing materials that I printed, that there's any type of question there.
We're not their bank.
No. And you don't want to be.
That's what Grecia is there for.
Yes. And I see here too, Rick, who's also on the IPA committee, chimed in that agreeing that, yeah, you should definitely get payment in advance for services performed, especially with a bigger client. So thank you for that, Rick. And then we have another question here, just kind of in the marketing scheme. And I know, Danielle, you answered it in the chat, but if you wouldn't mind just sharing with the group. I know somebody was asking, if you're kind of prioritizing your own personal branding of starting out, whether it's creating a website first or putting your, if you have limited time and you can only create a website or put some time into social. Danielle, what would you kind of recommend is that, priority?
I typically do recommend having a website first, just because it's like having a business card. It's like, this is me, this is my business, and this is what I do. It's just obviously more in depth than a business card, and it really helps shape the full picture of what it is that you do, rather than a LinkedIn post. It's just one post. I know that they can binge your content, but it does have that kind of further legitimize your business. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what we're going with. But in terms of social media, just starting with one platform is fine, and making that your one niche, and always constantly referring back to your website. Like if you look at anything that I am putting up, a lot of the times I'm like, check out my website for more, or adding the direct link to a blog post or a direct service that I'm promoting.
I agree 100%. It's like the same with the client. You wouldn't have them launch a product without a website first, because you have no callback, so where's that initial point of reference? Yeah, I think that's great advice. I have another question here. How do we deal with the multitude of collaboration and financial programs used by multiple different clients? It takes hours to learn all these different software programs just to conduct day-to-day business. What's the solution? So Grecia, I don't know if you have any insight to that, but I don't know if there's any platforms through the bank or any services that they're offering. I'm assuming that there are, that you can just kind of, get all of your financial programs into one place from different client requirements. So for sure, like, I'm not sure exactly what kind of programs they're talking about, but I know like there's like QuickBooks or things like that you can actually be compatible with your bank, depending on what platforms they use. I know as far as payments, most banks now have Zelle. That's becoming more popular. You can also have like a ACH thing set up where you set up automatic payments, or you have them
on their end, they can set up automatic payments to you or set the payment that goes to your account. I think having a good online system would probably be the best way to keep track of everything, just to make sure you see what payments come in or what's going out. You can schedule things. You can also, we have different things like positive pay, where once you start getting really busy and you start getting different payments, you can see if they can actually authenticate them for you to make sure they're legitimate checks that you're writing out or payments that are coming in. Just have basically more fraud protection too, right, with your account. But there is different programs that are compatible with the online systems. It just depends exactly what they're using.
Thank you. And Grecia, what branch are you in?
I'm in Hollywood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm in Hollywood.
And I know we're kind of over time, so we're happy to stay on for a couple more minutes. If people have to jump, go ahead. We have a question about side hustles where an outside client can be taken in while still an employee at another company. And is it necessary to register as a business? So, Grecia, I think that might be best for you, just because you know more about, registering as a business. Is there any kind of like quick overview?
Most of the time your side hustle is what's going to become your business eventually, right? So you can determine that based on how many clients you have or how much time you're actually investing into it. At first, it can start as side hustle and you're only taking 1, 2, 3 clients. You don't have to register for that. It's ultimately up to you, because at the end of the day, it's how is it going to impact your taxes? So if you're going to, that's more of a CPA question eventually, but it's kind of how you're going to count for that income, right? Are you going to count it in your personal income? Are you going to take it as cash? Those are ultimately the questions that you need to see how that's going to work for you. Because it's not so much like, oh, you have 20 clients, I have to register as a business. It's just, do you want it to be established as a business so then you can get the tax benefits or whatever else comes with it? So I think it's something that you have to gauge based on what is your long-term goal. Do you want to make it eventually a legitimate business? Then you can start by acquiring clients, and depending on what your number is that you feel comfortable enough to establish the business, then you can go from there. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you so much. We have another question just kind of about, how do you handle clients all having different business systems that they want you to use, like Slack? I know I have a lot of clients that myself want me to use Microsoft Teams, which is in itself is kind of a nightmare. And Rick answered this, which I appreciate. I was just going to share his answer, and I 100% agree that you just kind of have to set limits and do what the client is comfortable with. So, I think, again, like you want to, we're in the service industry, so we really have to, adhere to what our clients are asking, as long as it makes sense. I would say, though, that, my feeling would be if it's something that's taking me a lot of extra time, that might be something that I would take into consideration if I'm billing hourly or if it's my monthly budget. I might want to start banking in a little bit of that time, just knowing that, their request is taking longer. Tim, what are your thoughts? Do you have any insight on that?
Muted.
Oh, you're on mute.
I have found that the vast majority of the clients that I'm working with and that I'm doing different work with, it usually is Trello or Slack. There are a few other platforms out there that we've used, but usually it's those two. And then I agree with you, Microsoft Teams can be very problematic. But one thing that I have done, and it works very, very well, is using like Google Sheets or using Microsoft sharing. You're actually collaborating in the same document. I would say 90% of the work I've done have been on very, very common, popular platforms. There haven't been any sort of like bizarre requests coming in.
Yeah, I agree. Most of them are pretty standard.
Yeah.
And then we have another question, which I feel like could be a whole panel session in itself, just about average rates and fees, and what are you charging hourly versus project? That they're saying some PR pros have put down their rates. I think this is really, really very specific to the person, to what you're doing for your relationship with the client, to how many years of experience you have, to what the ask is. So I would just say that I don't really think that there's a set answer for that. Tim, what do you think?
I completely agree. I know that a lot of people I know, there are different rates for different types of work. So for example, content creation may have one schedule of rates, where acute crisis management may have another. Also doing a training session most likely is a fixed fee. So whether it's one person or 5 people, it's the same amount that you're doing it. But I think it is very important to go through and say, what really am I doing and what's going on in the market, and is what I'm doing justifiable? And I think it's also, if you're coming from a large agency, I think it's very important to remember that the clients aren't stupid. So they know that your overhead as a single practitioner working out of your kitchen is not the same overhead as someone working out of a 2,000 person firm. And so I think you have to, be able to balance that out that way as well.
Exactly. I agree. And I think, like for personally, I know I have long-term clients, and over the course of 5 years, I've definitely raised my rates, but I think that that's pretty normal and expected. You're doing good work, it's not crazy, but inflation and everything else. I think that that's something that, you could always have in the back of your mind too. And then I was just going to say quickly, kind of shameless plug, since we're on this topic and this conversation, I do think that I wanted to, invite everyone that if they're interested in joining PRSA-LA's IPA group, this is really what we do. This is why we're here. We talk about these things and issues within the industry. So we are, if you haven't found us, we are on Facebook and on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, it's at PRSA-LA. Independent Practitioners Alliance, and on Facebook we're at PRSA-LA Independent Practitioners Alliance. So if you just want to even follow us on social, join that those are questions that we can talk about and would be happy to get answered. And I think there was one more question I saw. Okay. I think that was it. Was there any other questions before we end? I know we're over time, so thank you all for joining. Hopefully you got something out of it. And if you have any questions or follow-ups, feel free to email me. I can get you in touch with the panelists for additional questions. And happy Friday, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you guys. This was fantastic. I loved it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so
Take care.
glad.
I left my
Thank you.
information in the chat box as well. I know somebody was asking, and I'm glad to hear, Rick, that we were able to help you. We're definitely a relationship bank. That's what we thrive on. So any questions you guys have, email me, call me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for having us on, Stacy.
Thank you all. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Take
Take
care.
care.
Guys, have a great weekend.
Bye.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.